Okay, so here we are at MailChimp.com. I've already created my site, so I'm going to log in and go to my dashboard. So before we get started on here, I want to call out something. I mentioned before that you need to figure out what your from is going to look like when you're sending an email campaign. Who is the email coming from? What email is it coming from? This is designed for my Ad Coach product. So if you go over to my settings, go to my account, I'm going to go over and show that I have my domain connected. So adcoach.co is authenticated, it's verified. This means that I can use my AdCoach email address as my from email. That can be really important if you are doing this for your online business. You want to go through and verify your website and verify your domain so that you can go ahead and use your unique email address as your contact information. So I want people to email me at my AdCoach email. So I went through this process. For privacy policies, I'm not going to go through every single setting in here because I don't want to show my contact list. I don't want to show other private information, which there is a lot in here. I'm going to focus on high level, how to create a list, how to create a campaign, things like that. But I do recommend that you go through all this. AdCoach has really helpful things, your custom domain setup guide. It's a very simple process, so make sure that you do go through all these settings before you get started. But let's go into up here, the top. So where do you start when you want to get started with AdCoach? Let's say you are with MailChimp. You've got everything set up. You want to create your first campaign. Well, first you need to create a list. So we'll go over to lists, and you'll see that I have a number of lists already created. Some of them are active with a couple of subscribers. Some of them are 0 subscribers. But you can use these for a number of different things. You can select which list you want to promote a message to. So let's say you have a list of people or a list of contacts that you want to import into here. We'll go ahead and say create list, and we'll create a new list. And let's give this list a name. For the sake of this, we'll say test campaign for email class. All right, now let's look at my from email. I can say coach@adcoach.co because I already have that adcoach.co verified in here. If I didn't have that verified, it would give me an error if I tried to use that email address. And you could say AdCoach is the name I want, or I want my full name in here. That's important because that'll show up in your email. Imagine going to Gmail or Outlook or whatever your email provider is, where it says who it's from. It'll say whatever you put in here, your name or the company name. So you should figure out what you want that to say when you're creating this. Some contact information in here about where I'm located. I'm going to blur out some of that so you're not seeing that here. And then remind people how they signed up for this list. That is important to write that in there. Just write, how did I get your information? Maybe you bought a product, you signed up for an email, something like that. So now that the privacy stuff is out of the way, let's look at some settings. You have a couple different options here. So enable double opt-in. This means that if you select that, when somebody signs up for your newsletter, they'll get an email and they have to confirm that they do want to sign up. I usually don't recommend this because it requires an additional level of opt-in, and it's usually not required. If somebody gives you their email for something like a newsletter or some list, you don't necessarily have to select that, but you may want to do that if you are, for example, buying a list, or you're getting a list from another property, or you're not really sure if people did opt in for this particular messaging. Another one is Gdpr Fields. So you may want to select that if you are working with anyone outside of the US, anyone in Europe. For the most part at this point, you're probably going to be best off selecting that. It will just mean a couple of extra factors when people are signing up for your newsletter or something like that. And then you can decide if you want to get notifications about people who are signing up for your list. So if you're importing a list on your own and you aren't automating this process, it may not really matter. If you have a big list and you expect hundreds of people per day, you probably don't want to do one by one. A daily summary may be as much as you want, or you could leave these all unchecked and just come in and manually check who's adding to your list as it builds. Okay, excellent. I have a brand new list. So right now I have no contacts in here. How would I do that? Well, we'll go over here to add contact. You can do one at a time, or you can do import. So this is where you may want to go if you have a list that you're importing for the first time. If you have a .csv, you could upload it, you could copy and paste information, or you could integrate this into another CRM or third party. They give you a lot of options here. Or if you don't have anything, you just want to create the list and you'll add over time, you can go back, and what you want to do is go over to your sign-up forms. Now, what MailChimp does is it gives you the option to create a sign-up form. It could be a pop-up that you can embed into a website. It can be an integration. It can be an embedded form. They can give you a free link so you can post it on your social media or send it out to people and ask people to sign up for your list. So let's say form builder, and we'll say this is our sign-up form. And down here gives you all these options. So here is my list. Here is all the different things that you could ask within it. So you can start to manage these. So maybe you want to add a message here. Say, sign up for great sales and information about my brand. Save and close. And then you can say, do I want people to give me their email, their first name, their last name? Maybe I don't need that information. Really, all you need is email. Then something like address. So do you need their address? And then do you want to have a default of where they're from? Now, if you're not mailing them anything, you probably don't need their street address. So you could say, you know what? I don't want that, so I'm going to delete it. I'll give you the option to delete that. Phone number, maybe you do want phone number. And you say, you know what? This is actually an important one, so I want to make sure it's visible. And you know what? I'm going to make sure that this is required because for this particular campaign, I need that information. Press save, so on and so forth. So you can go through and customize these as needed. These are your GDPR opt-ins. Please select all the ways you would like to hear from us: email, direct mail, customized online advertising. Subscribe to the list. And it gives you this URL right here. So if you copy that URL, and we'll just go to a new tab to see what that looks like. This is a page that comes up. So you could take that URL and post it on social media, send it out to people, text to people, do whatever you want. And it don't have to pay anything to host that. So it can be a really, really useful way to get people into your list. And then as people enter information, it'll automatically populate in the list you have just created. So that's what you need to do when you are setting up a list. So once you get your list done, you're ready to move on to a campaign.